Hello, my name is Lillian Okibe. Welcome to my channel. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about unraveling of locks when you first start out, because I've been getting quite a few messages from you guys complaining that your starter locks are unraveling and asking me what you guys can do to fix the problem. So today we are going to be talking all about that. We'll be discussing whether it is normal for your starter locks to unravel and what you can do to fix it. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, then please keep on watching. Before we go into this video, let me say that it is completely normal for you to experience some form of unraveling when you first start out your locks. Like, it is completely normal. It does not mean that your hair is not going to lock. It does not mean that you're doing something wrong. It does not mean that, like, basically that you're weird or like you're strange or anything like that. It is completely normal. Although not everyone is going to experience unraveling when they first start out their locks, right? But a good number of people will have that issue. So just know that you're not alone, and know that there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. Let's go on to talk about why you may be experiencing unraveling. So the first factor that will make your hair, or will make your locks more prone to unraveling, is the length of your locks, like the length of your hair when you first start out. So if you're starting out on like a really short, like really small afro, like really short hair, chances of your locks unraveling when you first start out is going to be a lot higher than obviously if you're starting out with pretty long hair. If you have like less than 4 inches of hair, just know that you're most likely going to experience some unraveling. However, not everyone is going to experience unraveling despite the fact that they have short hair. Another thing that is going to make your locks more prone to unraveling is the texture of your hair. So if your hair is more like silky and smooth, right, as opposed to being coarse, you're going to experience, like, you're going to have a bigger issue with unraveling than someone who has really coarse textured hair. But that does not mean that your hair is not going to lock, right? Another thing that will make your locks more prone to unraveling is your coil pattern, right? So if you have really tight coils, if you have really tight coils, your chances of experiencing unraveling is going to be a lot lower than someone who has really loose coils, or for someone who has straight hair. People who have straight hair tend to have the greatest issue with unraveling when they first start out their locks. Another thing that will predispose your hair, or that will make your locks more prone to unraveling, is the method you use to start your locks. Now, different methods have their advantages and their disadvantages, right? And different methods have different grip strength, or I don't know how to put it. Like, for instance, if you start your locks with braids, like really regular braids, right, you're most likely not going to have any issues with unraveling because braid pattern is really tight, and it means that your hair is overlapping and really tight. Most people don't have any issues with unraveling when they start with braids because the pattern is very tight. Another thing is, if you start your locks with interlocks, like if you start your locks with the interlocking method, you're most likely not going to have any issues with unraveling, because the concept of interlocking is that you're basically tying your hair. So it's going to be very difficult for that to unravel, right? Now, if you start with twists, obviously it's not going to, twists are not as firm and as tight as braids, right? So if you start with twists, your chances of unraveling is going to be a lot higher than if you start with braids. Then if you start with coils, like, what's it called? Regular coils, your chances of unraveling is going to be the highest if you start with coils, because coils are basically, just like the word implies, they are basically coils. So like, your hair is not like braided or plaited in any way, so your chances of experiencing unraveling is going to be a lot higher. Now, if you start with the method I started with, which is the Lillian Okibe lock method, right, with this method you're basically taking advantage of the overlapping pattern of braids while still maintaining the looseness, right? So depending on how you do it, and depending on the length of your hair, you most likely will not, like, and depending on the texture of your hair, you most likely will not have any issues with unraveling. I feel like with this method will give you more security than mini twist, right? But it's not going to be as secure as if you use just regular box braids. So because obviously it's a lot looser, but it's going to give you a little bit more security with this method as opposed to if you use 2-strand twist. But it also depends on how tight you are twisting the hair. So I feel like maybe it's a tie between 2-strand twist. The grip or the security that you get is probably a tie between 2-strand twist and the Lillian Okibe locks method. Many people think that the fact that their locks are unraveling means that their hair is not locking, but that's not true. It is not the twist or the braid or the interlock or whatever you do that locks the hair. The purpose of putting your hair in braids or twists or coils or whatever is just to, first off, to partition your hair such that you have control over like the size of locks you have and like the distribution of locks that you have all over your head. So that's the main reason why people basically braid or twist or coil their hair in sections, you know, so that unlike if you go the freeform route, you just leave your hair in an afro and allow it to do its thing and allow it to lock, your hair is still going to lock. But when you go ahead and put your hair in like braids or twists or coils or whatever, it makes sure that you have control over the size of locks that you end up with. So also when you go ahead to retwist your hair as your locks grow, the retwisting that you're doing doesn't actually lock the hair. It just helps to, you know, emphasize the parts that you have done and to keep your hair separated such that your locks continue to form in those sections that you have created. Now, how locks form, the concept of putting your hair in braids also, apart from the fact that it keeps your locks or your hair separated such that it locks in those sections, is that when you braid your hair, because your hair is like braided or twisted or coiled, right? Normally every human being, as long as you're alive, your hair is constantly shedding, right? Your hair is constantly shedding, whether you like it or not. And that's why no matter how gentle you are, when you go ahead to comb your hair, you're going to lose hair. Not necessarily because you're breaking your hair, and even if you don't comb your hair, like if you run your fingers through your hair, no matter how gentle you are, you're going to lose hair. And that's because your hair is constantly shedding. When you put your hair in braids or coils or whatever, it keeps your hair bound in such a way that despite the fact that your hair is shedding, the shed hair is really not falling out, right? The shed hair is not falling out. The shed hair remains in your hair. And let's say this is your hair, you have put your hair in like a braid, right? You have hair that is shedding in the sense that it is uprooting from the root. What happens is that because your hair, all this hair is bound such that the shed hair cannot fall out. So what happens is that as soon as it uproots, if your hair is not straight, if your hair is not 100% straight, if you have a coil pattern, what happens is when your hair sheds, it actually falls, right? It falls. The hair that has uprooted actually falls, and as it falls, it kind of like coils up in like weird ways, right? It coils up in different ways such that it connects the strands of hair that you already have that has not shed yet, right? So it's actually that coiling and coiling that it does that really connects your hair. And the more the hair sheds, the more you have different, you know, coiling, and the more the connection between all the strands of your hair continues to get more like intricate, and then before you know it, you have a lock. That is what happens. And even when you put your hair in like twists or curls or whatever, that process still continues. And that's why the tighter the style you put your hair in, the less likely, the longer it will take for your hair to lock in such a way that your hair is going to look like a lock. And that's because with twists are kind of loose, right? So it gives the shed hairs room to coil up and fall and basically like interconnect the strands of your hair such that it forms a lock. Unlike braids that is really tight, most times because the braids are tight, the shed hairs just, when the shed hair falls, it doesn't really have room to move down the length of the braid because the braid is really tight. And that's why you notice that people who start their locks with braids, with like regular box braids, tend to have the texture of the braids remaining in their locks for a very long time, because the fact that you have done it tightly, it actually slows down, or like it reduces how free your shed hairs can move and coil up and connect the strands of hair and form a lock. That's basically the principle behind locks forming. And that's why even if you leave your hair, you don't put your hair in braids or twists or whatever, for the fact that you have hair and your hair is kinky coily, meaning that it's coiled naturally, because of the nature of our hair, the fact that it is coiled, most times our shed hairs don't just fall on their own, except we intentionally go in there to maybe comb our hair or finger detangle or whatever. The shed hair remains in our hair because our hair is naturally coiled. So if you leave your hair and you don't comb it, after a while those shed hairs will continue to shed and, you know, interconnect and, you know, connect and connect and connect and form locks. And that's why if you go ahead and let's say you put your hair in, like all your hair in one big ponytail, and you don't ever bring down that ponytail, and you don't ever comb your hair, after a while, when you give your hair enough time, your hair will form one big lock because of that one ponytail that you have done. So basically that's the concept, or that's the principle behind forming of locks. So whether you put your hair in braids or twists or whatever, it's not actually the style that you have put your hair in that makes your locks, that makes your hair to lock. So when you put your hair in a style, let's say you put your hair in comb coils, right? You start your locks with comb coils. If the comb coil is unraveling, that does not mean that your hair is not locking. In fact, like in reality, when those styles loosen, like the concept behind, the more those styles loosen, the faster your hair is going to lock, because the looser those styles become, the more space you have in that section of hair for the shed hairs to fall and coil and interconnect your hair. So whenever you do your style, let's say when you are in the starter lock phase, right, whenever you experience any form of like your hair unraveling or things like that, don't be dismayed, don't be sad, don't feel like, oh, my hair is never going to lock or anything like that, because as your hair is like unraveling, right, that's a sign that your hair is actually doing what it needs to do in order for it to lock. So unraveling of locks, especially at the early stage of your lock journey, is absolutely normal. Your hair is supposed to unravel to an extent. Now for people who have kinky coily hair, who start with something like 2-strand twist, after a while you notice that the 2-strand twists become looser, so it's not as if it's going to unravel 100%. And I feel like that's the difference between people who have loosely tiled coils and people who have really tight coils. It's the fact that for people who have really tight coils, even when the style loosens, in a way your hair still remains bound. So many people don't really notice the fact that their hair is unraveling, but for your hair to unravel is completely normal, and it's actually a sign that your hair is doing what it needs to do. If your hair doesn't loosen up or unravel to an extent, like your locks will not really form quickly. So the more your hair unravels, the more your hair swells, or the more your twist or braids or coils unravels and swells, the faster your locks are going to form. So don't be sad when you see that happen. Now obviously you don't want your hair to unravel 100% such that all your sections of locks start to merge, because obviously you put your hair in those sections because you want your locks to form in those sections. So don't be afraid when you see your hair unravel, but from time to time you can just loosely go on and redo the style. So let's say you started with 2-strand twists, for instance, now, and then you discover that your 2-strand twists are unraveling. Instead of forcing, like every minute retwisting and retwisting, allow it to unravel, but from time to time you can really go in there and like just loosely, you know, twist the hair back in place, you know, and continue to loosely twist the hair back in place. Now when you want to twist the hair back in place, most times like the hair is not going to unravel. Like the longer you go, you're going to get to a point where the twists are unraveling, right, but it's not like it's still connected in weird ways. So what you're doing, you're not supposed to rip out the hair that is connected just to redo the twist. So what you're trying to do is, however it is, you just want to loosely retwist the hair now. Or if you started with coils, however it is, you just want to like loosely coil, most preferably with your fingers, because you don't want to disrupt the little connection that has already begun in your hair. For anything, the more your locks unravel, right, the thicker your locks are going to become, because the way locks form is, the more it unravels, the more your locks, the more the section swells, and when it is swollen, it gives room in that section for shed hairs to accumulate, and before you know it, your shed hairs will accumulate in that section and form a thick lock, right? So you really don't want to force over making sure that every minute your locks are unraveling, making sure that you are quickly twisting it back or you are quickly coiling it back or whatever. Allow your locks to unravel. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but you want to make sure that from time to time you just really go in there to, you know, go in there to separate your hair and loosely, if you can, loosely twist it back up or coil it back up. Like that's what you should do. Now I also want to say that I didn't experience any form of, like, I really didn't experience unraveling when I started my locks because of the method I used. So my locks were basically, when I started my locks, I really did not experience much with unraveling, but I had this lock in front here that just was weird. Like it's not like it unraveled it's not like it unraveled, like really unraveled, but I noticed that I experienced what many people call slippage. So it got looser and looser and looser, and so it got really loose. That, let me see if I can bring it out. Yeah, so like this lock right here, right? Because when I did that, I did this hair in this area was really small and like really like skinny. This section, you guys can see that the lock is actually really small, but when I first started out, so it was even much more smaller than this. So when I did my, when I started locks with the Lilian Okibe locks method I did, I noticed that it seemed like I had a lot of slippage, that it became so loose, like you really could not, like this, what I did, the loose braid I did just vanished. Like, although it's not like my hair became like standing on its own like loose, but it just vanished, right? But what I did was I just ignored it. I didn't do anything, I just ignored it. But from time to time, like let's say when I'm like retwisting the rest of my hair, I look around this and I just loosely take, just like how I showed you guys, I loosely take the loose hair and wrap it around, and you guys can see that it has actually corrected itself. Like it has actually formed a lock. Right now I have like loose hair at the roots, just like all my other locks. I have like loose hair at the roots, which will eventually lock after a while. But you guys can see the length of the locks, like it has actually formed a lock, like even without me doing anything to it, even for the fact that it's actually unraveled, right? So you don't have anything to worry about when you notice unraveling in your locks. It is completely normal. Some people experience more than others. Some people will not have any issues with it at all. Some people only experience it around their edges. For me, I only experienced it on this lock here, but I let it be. Like I just left it. I did not redo it, even though I noticed that it was unraveling, because the hair around this area was like, when I first started out, so it was really slim and thin and fragile, so it just did not hold. And it was kind of short, right? So it was like basically my edges, and it was short, so it just did not hold the lock as much as I would have wanted it to. But you guys can see it has corrected itself. So yeah, I feel like I've talked too long in this video, but just don't fret, don't be upset. It is completely normal for your locks to unravel. Let it unravel, but from time to time, just like when you're doing your regular maintenance, like when you're retwisting your hair, you can just go ahead and retwist it as normal, but don't really fuss too much about like unraveling of locks. It is completely normal. So yeah, with that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and if this is your first time on my channel and you like to see my locks and how my locks progress, then definitely subscribe. I actually just clocked 10 months on my lock journey, so my locks are officially 10 months old. It clocked 10 months at the end of November, so yeah, I'm really excited. I'm going to give you guys a lock update when I hit 1 year. My last lock update was when I hit 6 months, and in that video I told you guys that I'm not going to do another lock update video until when I hit 1 year, so 2 months to go. Yeah. And I'm really excited because I really like how my locks have progressed, and I like how they are coming along and how they look right now. So yeah, with that, we come to the end of this video. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching. See you guys in my next video.
I want to know you, but I don't know how. 'Cause every time I bump right into you, I get all tongue-tied. Want you to know me, but I'm way too shy. I can't just go around admitting that